In episode 2 of Simple ESP32 M5Dial stuff, I'm going to add to the concepts I introduced in the last video and add on asynchronous web server functionality along with socket communication and static data in SPIFFS. You'll see how all of this is related in a minute. All this code is going to be available to take and steal and borrow, just like I borrowed it from others. Use this video as a reference and then play with my code. In my main CPP, I added some functions, some includes first of all, for web and Wi-Fi functionality. These includes right here are going to let me do asynchronous TCP, Wi-Fi, make a web server, and then use the file system inside the dial. This will apply to most any ESP32 and especially ESP32S3, but specifically this is for the M5Stack M5Dial. I copied and pasted some examples of HTML that I'm embedding directly in the dial. These 3 lines down here are going to start the server, set up the server, take events, and do asynchronous WebSockets. All a lot for one video, but bear with me here. All of this stuff is the same as my last video, except I've added this section to start the file server section on the dial. This is a SPIFFS file system embedded in here, and you'll see how I got files in there. But the first thing you need to do is begin. If this is set to false, it will not attempt to format the file system if it doesn't exist. Otherwise it will. And then I'm taking this fake HTML content I put up here and just dumping it into a file on that file system. And then I did something else. I'll show you what that all is here later. There's a test file which just spits out this test file. All of this stuff is asynchronous. So once this is running, you see all this is in setup. If you call any of these things that will ask for web pages from the M5Dial, you will get that file. And then there's a bunch of WebSocket stuff. This lets you do asynchronous communication of dynamic data to a web page without consistently reloading it. You can look up WebSockets in another video here, but this basically just gets it going. The very basics here to get you started. Steal my code, please. All right, that is all in the setup. Once you're done, do a server begin. The sleep is not necessary anymore. We'll sleep when we're dead. All right, and then down here in the loop section, I'm saying update my data once every delta WS. What is delta WS? 100 milliseconds. Update my data. And that's perfectly fine for what we're doing here. You'll see in my very simple example. So the next thing you need to do is make a data directory. This is for SPIFFS, and this is all of the static data that will exist on the M5Dial, and just like it was on your hard drive. There's a bunch of tests that I did here. There's a test HTML, the most basic HTML page. There is a cute picture of a ferret showing that I can even serve images from this thing, and a JavaScript. Let's see what this does. Let's go back here for one more second though. In here, I got a bunch of server on things. Those are all the web server type things I want to do. Let's look up server dot on index dynamic index test.html and the not found page, the 404 page. So the other one I did is serve static. This says just look in the SPIFFS file system. If somebody asked for a file, just serve it straight up off of this thing. Not any security around this, but again, this is a very local test here. Let's see what this thing does right now out of the box. I am going to, first of all, do a build. I could have just done an upload. I've got my M5Dial right here, right now. The other thing you need to do in this particular case is click on the alien face and do an upload file system image. This will take all of the stuff in the data directory you just saw on that previous screen and put it in the SPIFFS file system and upload it to the M5Dial. Takes a couple seconds, the dial goes black while it's uploading this, and then it's all good. I consistently forget this step all the time. You really need that step in there. Anybody has an automatic way to do that? Let me know. Next step, let's go and upload. Did I do that already? I forgot. Can't hurt to do it again. So once this uploads, another aspect that I glossed over here is that the Wi-Fi setup. Just copy this code, but this Wi-Fi is in AP mode access point, so it acts like your home Wi-Fi. It's going to be called ESP captive, and it will be immediately available. So now it's running on my dial. Let's go switch to that video. And it's counting up. I'm going to cycle power to this again. You'll see. Same as the last demo. It's just counting. It looks no different from that aspect. However, now, once I connect to this thing's Wi-Fi, in this case called ESP captive, your computer will warn you that you have no internet on this connection. That's totally fine. But now when you go to the page, let's start with the simple test. Can't type one-handed. Test.html. I get my test.html. Now remember, that's the contents of, in here, in the data directory directly below my project. That's this file. The other one I have in here is ferret, and that's showing me my picture of a ferret. Now I'm not connected to the internet, I'm only connected to my little dial here. It is a web server and serving me cute pictures of a ferret. If I give it something else in here, blah.html, I get nothing. Not found, but at least I get a nice 404 page. Now the real magic in here is on this page right here, I'm getting the real count that's really on my dial, really. So it's hard to focus on both of these at the same time, but that's at 203, and that's at, you know, they're still counting, both of them together. So I'm sending data by WebSocket directly from the dial to a web page without the web page refreshing or anything else, just using WebSocket communication. Pretty slick.